So I did see Oppenheimer. I did not see it in IMAX, unfortunately, but I saw it in a nice enough theater. And frankly, like you need the Dolby Atmos. If you've got that, you've got most of the experience, I think, probably.
I also saw in a regular theater, but they redid like all of the screens during COVID, and like they all look good. Like they're very good screens. And so I'm missing something with the film, obviously, but
yeah,
it's good enough.
Well, it nevertheless, even digital projection of something shot on film, it certainly has the quality, the characteristics of something shot on film. It was beautifully shot.
Yes.
I think it's really awesome, like incredibly awesome, that this Christopher Nolan guy, one of the last ones, him, Tarantino, and is there anybody else who can actually sell a movie based on the director, right?
Right.
Like there ain't. I don't think David Fincher sells a movie on the director. I don't think Martin Scorsese sells a movie on the director. Like it's not at this point. He doesn't.
No.
But this guy still, because when I say sell a movie, I mean like people come out to see it and it makes $100 million, or whatever. Yeah.
I think the Barbenheimer thing definitely helped him. We're like, it's kind of like that's a happy accident.
And he knew it. He actually, I remember seeing a month ago, I saw an interview where he was like, a crowded marketplace is actually a good thing for cinema right now. And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh yeah. Remember in 2008, Dark Knight came out the same weekend as Mamma Mia and they both blew up?
Oh yeah. If that happened nowadays, there'd be all sorts of memes.
Yeah.
I can't wait till they inorganically try to recreate this.
What's the next Barbenheimer gonna be?
Well, that'll be the SNL sketch that comes back when they come back from the writer's strike.
This Sunday,
You heard of a Barbenheimer?
Dark Mama. God. And then idiots share this stuff, Oh my God. I'm sorry. But it's always the same guy. It's always like, this made me laugh. I don't know. Barbenheimer. It's funny. Like, this guy for fucking real. But I loved Oppenheimer. I thought it was awesome. I was going to say, I think it's so awesome that this guy who sells movies on his own name, he's making like blockbuster, IMAX worthy, event cinema that at this point is just biopic.
Yeah. Biopic, people in rooms mostly.
Yeah. I mean, there is some spectacle at the heart of the movie, but generally speaking, like it's just people in rooms talking, and he's like, "You're gonna watch that on IMAX," and you know what? Like, yeah, hell yeah, like watch. I mean, there's actors in this thing that are larger than life. There's
I can't believe the cast. I can't believe it, and like, it's like the people that just show up. Like Rami Malek just shows up for a couple scenes. Like, this is an Oscar-winning actor who's just like a cameo.
Like an extra. But there was a Matt Damon told a story to, I think it was Variety, and and it captured my imagination a bit. He was like, without naming the movie or without naming specific projects, he's like, I've been in situations where I've signed on for a project we were all excited about. It's a 5-month shoot. You uproot your whole family. It's very disruptive to your life. And you're like 3 weeks into the shoot and you realize like this movie ain't going to be what we all hoped it was going to be. And like, you just have to like, you can't say it. You can't talk shit about your own movie. And like, you just have to wait out the production and just like, let it be a flop and let all that time be wasted. And he's like, that's why I got to get choosy. And I got family and stuff. And he said something like, unless Christopher Nolan calls, and then we got to do it.
Yeah. And it's funny because what's the Han Solo guy?
Alden Ehrenreich. Yeah,
he literally plays like Senate aide. Like that's his like name in the credits or whatever.
Oh, is it really? That's so funny. I love him, by the way. He's one of my favorite actors right now.
Yeah, and he was great. Like everyone was great. And then Josh Hartnett. He comes back and he's great as a little side character. I would say the first hour one, I had to like get acclimated to the very I would say oppressive editing.
Yeah, I agree. It was like relentless. Yeah.
like and also it is sort of mixed like a Nolan film where I'm like, okay, I have to really like I have to like lean in to listen because
Yeah.
I have to get used to how it's mixed and the editing and like how it's jumping from
Yeah.
time periods. And I made the joke last one, it's edited like a Coco Melon thing, but this is sort of like that too, where you're just like, oh, the image is changing, up, the image is changing.
Yeah, he structures his movies less so like a 3-act structure, even though you could identify the 3 acts, I think,
Yeah,
and more like a train that starts barreling and just keep like Dark Knight is like that, and I think is really successful like that, where
yeah,
that movie starts and it just doesn't fucking stop. Like it just like keeps
yeah,
going to the next scene, next scene, next, and you could almost accuse it of having an and then thing, but no, I do think it kind of more unfolds until it
yeah,
kind of explodes.
yeah,
And yeah, his movies are like Inception's a bit like that, and
yeah.
Prestige is like that actually.
Yeah, and everyone has a good. So the first hour is like the biographical, like origin story, quote unquote, where you get like his education and upbringing and his relationships that are unfolding, and then the second hour is the whole the Manhattan Project basically, and in weaving in all of this is these hearings. Like there's a Senate hearing where Robert Downey Jr.'s character needs to get confirmed to a cabinet position, and there's also a security clearance hearing that Oppenheimer is in because he's um, getting tried for his relationships with communism, basically.
Yeah.
And then, but the second hour is the whole Manhattan Project, which is so thrilling. I think that's like that hour is like the strongest cinema I've seen in a long
Yeah,
time.
it's super good. Yeah. And of course the detonation itself is breathtaking, and
yeah, I think that will be a that will be a classic scene in like all of cinema because
yeah.
it's just like I was feeling so like my palms were sweating. I was getting and probably the score, which is also like relentless, is
Yeah.
bringing you up with it, and it's so good. It's so good.
He's got, the director has you feeling as though you're about to detonate something that's unpredictable, you know?
Because they even like I love when he's talking to Matt Damon's character. He's like, it's like, oh, I might like ignite the atmosphere. He's like, wait, it's
Yeah,
like
I
it's
like
near zero. It's like
Yeah,
I want zero.
nothing we've studied supports anything different. What do you want from theory alone? Yeah, it's incredible. And,
It's like,
and I love when Matt Damon's like, when somebody's like, why should I go on this project for 2-3 years? And Matt Damon loses his patience. Like, maybe because it's the most important fucking thing in the history of the world. And it's like, it's actually a true statement. Like,
yeah. And then the last hour, I would say that's probably where I have the most like issues with the pacing, where it kind of resolves both the security clearance hearing and the committee
swearing
hearing.
in. Yeah.
And then and also, but there's also like really good scenes with like Gary Oldman as President Truman, where where he's like goes in, he's like, I think I have blood on my hand, and like Truman's like, didn't even know that was Gary Oldman until later, and
Yeah.
he's
Which
such
is
a chameleon.
Gary Oldman's best trick.
Yeah, just blending in and being somebody else.
Emily Blunt had a really good scene towards the end too. She's one of my favorite actresses right now. I think she, like, everything she does is special in some way.
Yeah. She was a really like, because people like say that like Christopher Nolan like cheats because he hires such good actors, but I don't know. I think he must have great direction because I've seen good actors like and do lousy performances.
I gotta say, I as far as his screenplays tend to go, his screenplays are normally where I have the most trouble. Where I'm kind of like, how come the characters spent so much time explaining the plot to me, well, on whiteboards and shit? And how like in Inception they like take a while to do that, and in Interstellar they do that for a while. In Dark Knight, which is a great movie, like the Joker explains his own motivation in depth, as opposed to, so there's some telling and not showing. For a guy who's such a master filmmaker, there's a lot of telling and not showing. And or sometimes in some of his movies he would have like awkward extras, like the people on the boat in Dark Knight, or in Dark Knight Rises, or some stuff like that. I'm like, or Dark Knight Rises. How about this? Like I actually like Dark Knight Rises,
Yeah, me too.
except the movie makes no fucking sense. Like, I don't know, like a lot of that movie really just doesn't quite add up. So his screenplays, I was giving him kind of a pass where I was like, all right, this guy obviously just wants to make kind of big event movies. He said recently, he's like, I think that directors should look at cinema as, because he's big on like shoot it on film, put it in a big theater. He's like, these are audio visual experiences. That's what they should be. So I was like, all right, maybe he thinks that story is like, just a little less important than the spectacle of it all. But then I noticed he was the writer and director on this. So it looked like he was the sole screenwriter. I thought this had a really, really good screenplay. I really enjoyed the majority of the dialogue. I thought the characters were well constructed. I thought he gave the actors tons to work with. I think he did a great job on the screenplay.
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. got to chew the scenery a little, and
which is what you do with Robert Downey Jr. when he comes back from, because we really haven't seen him do anything since Iron Man.
He came back from veganism or whatever.
Yeah, I'm a lot skinnier now. I thought that Cillian Murphy was like a revelation. Like I've never seen this guy be this great.
He especially because he's not quite doing like an impression of Oppenheimer. He is, but he's like really like the physicality, and he's like really owning it, and it's breathtaking. You can't keep your eyes off it.
When I heard he was the guy, I was like, oh, really? That guy? Like, is he going to be able to pull that? Because I'd never seen any work of his that like showed a whole lot of range. And he also doesn't, he looks to me more like he has like a modern look to him. He didn't look like a historical figure to me. Not so in the movie. He totally embodies it. And you're right. There's like maybe like a 5 to 10% that's an impression. And the rest of it is like a characterization. I think for when you're playing a character from history, that's a good balance. And one thing that's funny, that kind of like whatever that is, that kind of somewhat mid-Atlantic American accent that he was doing, it often sounded to me like Robin Williams.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, look. Oh, well, we're not going to be able to be part of the Manhattan Project. Oh, look. A little bit of that.
Well, and he would have been cast as Oppenheimer in the 90s.
Well, had I still been alive, I would have been cast as Oppenheimer. Oh, look. Well, I was seeing it with Nina, and they were, of course, using chalkboards the whole movie. And she leans over to me and she goes, "They invented the atomic bomb before dry erase." I think it's kind of interesting. Like they hadn't come up with dry erase boards just yet.
No.
I also thought it was strange that I thought one of the coolest things in the movie, in fact, I think it could have afforded to do it a little bit more, was in some of those kind of, more traditional dialogue scenes in small rooms. Occasionally he would do something very stylistic with them. Oppenheimer would have a vision of everybody blowing up, or he'd be talking about his affair, and he'd suddenly fucking the woman, in the middle of the hearing. It's very, and so it's like really you feel like the embarrassment and the shame and stuff. And I really like that, like highly stylized stuff.
Yeah, it seemed uncharacteristic, but it seemed very appropriate. I love when like the background is like shuddering a little bit, like when certain things are happening. It's
really, really good stuff. But it's funny because the nudity and they don't drop that many F-bombs. I want to say they drop maybe like 5 to 7 of them.
Yeah.
You could do the movie without the nudity. You could do it without the F-bombs, and you got a PG-13 movie. So it's interesting that he was like, I'm just going to be on this side of an R, But I actually like the nudity. I thought it reminded me of like an old movie.
I was like, oh yeah.
Like occasionally R-rated movies would have like, some boobs, and not in a way that's just like, it's just here to make everybody horny, but in a way that's just, kind of like exposing and a little bit risque and a little bit risky.
I think it does illustrate how complicated this guy was, because they don't make him like a villain. They don't make him like a hero. He's truly a human with a lot of interesting facets. Where he's like, I mean, he probably was like a raging communist, but they like make him like, oh, I'm a free thinker. I'm like looking at all these things, and he's taken from he just happened to sleep with a lot of communist women.
I'm sorry. Oh look,
Oh look.
I couldn't help myself.
But it makes him a very interesting a character. A very, even he's doing this feat that changes the world probably for the worst. You're still like on board with them, and you're still sympathizing. You're still in with the journey.
You know what's wild is it. I think of Interstellar and Inception as rather high grossing movies, big successes, and because this is considerably behind Barbie, I think of like, oh, well, it did well for what it is, for the current market, for the fact that it was up against Barbie. No, man, it's already grossed higher than Interstellar and Inception.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
So what's the budget's like 100 million or something?
100 million.
And I think so is Barbie, or around that for Barbie.
Yeah,
And so they, like these, both of them, can you think about this? Both of them combined cost less than Secret Invasion.
Holy fuck.
Or around because Secret Invasion was 212 million, and so they're so them together is about Secret Invasion.
Oh, and I should be clear, it hasn't already outgrossed total. I mean, it's outgrossing them at I think at the pace that they were in their first weekend.
Yes.
Because Interstellar or Inception actually made 870 million worldwide. So it for a movie that was not franchised to get kind of close to $1 billion is crazy. But you make a good point, which is like 100 mil is starting to become like a lower budget blockbuster film now. Yeah.
And I think that's a good area to be. It's a good.
Yeah. The lower the better, frankly. I mean, I was watching I'm such a fan of Righteous Gemstones. Adam Devine. I don't know. It must be Adam Devine. He's the guy who plays Kelvin in Righteous Gemstones. He was on a podcast, and he was talking about how it used to be years ago, not so long ago, that like 50 comedies would come out in the movie theater, like one a week, and each one would be made just to be a funny movie, and people would either go see it or not see it. And he was like, and if it made 16 million, 20 million. It was it turned a healthy profit, like, for what we were making them at. And he's like, and because we were making so many, and they were relatively easy to get made, we would also happen upon an Old School or an Anchorman, on occasion.
Dodgeball.
The movies that were kind of breakouts. And he was just like, now he's like, he was saying exactly what we were saying. He was like, there's like this year there's been like 2 comedies in theaters. It's like that Machine movie with Bert Kreischer or whatever, and like Sebastian Maniscalco's like his movie about his dad. And he's like, and by the way, those 2 movies came out on the same day, and they just bombed together. Yeah.
What a waste.
So that is not a Barbenheimer situation you want to concoct. Is like putting out two movies that are unlikely to catch fire. I don't know. I think that it's going to remain really unpredictable what does and doesn't work.
I think so. I think. It does seem like people are sick of whatever Disney's selling. But who knows? They might come up with a surprise hit. But there was some like lazy criticism of Oppenheimer. It's like, you don't see like this from Japan's perspective. And I was like, why would like that? It's much more horrifying when he gives away these bombs to the U.S. military, and he hears it on the radio like everyone else. That
exactly. That's there actually was a lot of power in that, in the narrative telling of that. I thought where they're like, thank you, we got what we need, and like he's kept at a distance from the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when he expresses concern about it, like, hey, I might not like what I have heard. They're like, we're gonna fucking crush you. Great film.
It's a great film.
I thought there was a moment where Alden Ehrenreich was like, there's a guy named Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. It was maybe like the one cheeseball moment of the movie. And I joked to Nina. I was like, they should have waited for the after credits for that one. Like John F. Kennedy.
Yeah,
Is
he
it
comes
like
out.
it's teased? Yeah. Or John F. Kennedy will return in often harder.
And he does have like a little bit of a superhero suit up moment. Like, remember he's wearing like the general outfit or whatever, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, that's not you, Uppy. Get into your suit up." And he in silhouette, he puts on his hat and like grabs his pipe. It's shot like it's the Dark Knight.
It's funny. Nolan recently said they were like, "Would you ever do another superhero movie?" He's like, "No, I don't think so." And I thought like it's kind of incredible in a way that he gave us not only has Christopher Nolan this like prestige, again like Tarantino level director, maybe in some ways he's distinct, I think, from Tarantino, but they have a lot in common too. Not only has he given us a superhero movie in the first place, which is kind of wild, but it was a Batman movie. And not only was it a Batman movie, it was like a Batman trilogy that he got to, from beginning to end, make his own. And it didn't have to connect to anything else. It gets to be completely standalone. And I think he knows that. And he's like, that's because I've heard him say, he's like, we didn't know there was going to be a second one when we made the first one. We got to wait 3 years before we did the sequel, and I made a movie in between. We got to wait 4 years between the second and third one, and I got to make a movie in between. He's like, we just kind of did it at our own pace and at our own level of interest. And he's like, it was really the right time for it. Right. Yeah. And it makes me wonder, EJ, with so few productions shooting on film, when are we going to hit a point where it's going to be tough to find people who even know how to shoot on film?
They can barely get people to like project this stuff because it's like, the way they do it now is you just turn it on with the, it's digital. It's probably semi-automatic. And, but I guess they were having issues because you have to get people to load these things. And there's people who don't even know how to handle film. And so,
yeah, I mean, like shooting on film is not some easy thing, and it's a totally different skill set in a lot of ways from digital filmmaking. And I don't know, like I'm at, if you need like a Steenbeck repaired today, there's like one guy in the country that fixes that. Now, I'm not saying that these films are edited on Steenbecks. My point is that like at some point the technology age, like the talent ages out, where it's like you're totally outmoded and the thing doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of wild. Like it feels like there's definitely a shelf life for Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's when Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino stop making.
Like enjoy every last one that you get. Like that's why like Oppenheimer comes out, you got to go out and see it. Like you're not going to get too many. Nina wasn't even especially excited about Oppenheimer, and I was like, "Do you want to see this movie?" And her answer was like I want to go see a movie that somebody like gave a fuck about making.
Well, that's definitely this.
Yeah,
I think he gave like the most fucks about this.
And you know what? This is a strange memory that I had just this morning. I jotted it down because I wanted to tell you about it in case you or anybody else out there has ever had this experience. I remember, I don't know, maybe 2003, 2004. I was going to the movies a lot. They were still projecting on film back then, and I remember seeing trailers. And I don't know if it like the reel that they had for those trailers was somehow projecting too much of the frame instead of cropping where it was meant to be cropped. And you could see the boom poles in every single shot in the whole trailer. Like it was, maybe they were shot anamorphic and it was supposed to have been cropped at some point in the production. And it's hilarious. You're watching some like A-list movie and there's just boom poles all over the damn place. It would be on the
interesting.
It would bleed on the top of the movie theater screen. And you're like, what the fuck is that? Oh my God, it's boom poles.
Yeah, maybe they were supposed to have a gate on the projector and they didn't put it on.
It was for trailers specifically. It wasn't
because they did. I think they used to have separate reels for trailers.
I remember thinking it was a joke. I was like, oh, this must be like a joke for this trailer. And then I was like, no, but it looks awfully comical.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't remember any of that. But that must have been unique to your theater. It
was really wild. Like, and shot to shot, you got to see all of the very creative configurations of boom operation. Like, depending on like if it's a wide, if it's a medium, if it's like 2 people, you're like, oh wow.
Yeah, it is amazing when you're on a production, just even our dinky productions, what's happening right off screen.
Yeah. Well, that's the art of filmmaking is this, and anything outside of this, anything goes,
You have Junt on a piano bench, like really close by.
Yeah. The whole time that John Ryan is performing.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.